Today I'm just going over on how this course basically how it developed me and impacted me personally, professionally, and how it shaped my understanding of politics surrounding Black athletes historically and other things in that sort of nature. So first, I want to thank you for allowing to take the time out to bring this great facts about Black athletes and everything that we accomplished over the years and what we have became over today too as well. So here, this first lecture, this first model that we talked about, um, basically went over like who are the Black athletes and basically what was going on then. Over here to our left, we have Jack Johnson, who was the first African American heavyweight champion. And before this class, I had no clue who he was and who the first heavyweight champion was. So just getting to learn more about him and everything he stood for and what happened from him going through trials and tribulations with the Mann Act to him eventually getting pardoned by Trump. It's just everything about that is just awesome. Just learning that it took a long time for one of us just to even be champions, and then obviously the world just basically try to break you down and just make it even harder for the Black athletes as well. It's all right. He has Moses Fleetwood Walker, which I knew that there was somebody before Jackie Robinson. I just never really took the time to look to see who it was. But without this guy, his experience and hard work that he desired to, like, he wanted to play in the league, and the amount of things that he went through from sleeping on like benches to just getting so disrespectful to where basically they couldn't even eat with the team or nothing like that. It was just hard back in those days. So he couldn't really uphold it or withstand everything. So he eventually went back to law school to where he would attain his law degree too as well. And then obviously years later, that's when Jackie Robinson appeared to be able to play during this time. He actually fit more the mold because he was already like in the military was and he knew what it was to play like surrounded with white people as well. So he just knew what he had to do, you know, knew what he could and couldn't do around the white majority of the sport too as well. So that's what made him different and separate him from Moses himself. So and this next slide these are one of the interesting ones too. Basically the Black 14 is basically they went to the University of Wyoming and Coach Eaton or Coach one of the coaches, I forgot his name right now. I can't too much remember, but I know he didn't want them to protest and they wore the black armbands, which he didn't conform to or confit to because he didn't want this to happen and he didn't like that they were as a group just going on to do whatever they wanted. So he just basically suspended them for the acting and later the homecoming game, the opposing team, they wore armbands for these 14 black 14 and then coach he ended up resigning and never playing again, never coaching again because of these 14. They just tried to do something different, boycotting and stuff like that too as well, taking parts of their with other college students trying to set the tone and example just for them to allow them to be able to play too as well. And over here we got the Cleveland Summit, which all started. These are all like iconic black male figures in sports. And one today is just recently died was Bill Russell. But either or, we had Muhammad Ali come to they all met at Cleveland and they tried to just try to convince him just to join the military ranks, and that some of them had already served, and that mainly he could still box and teach, and while the others were getting paid, but he still was not going for it because he believed that went against his religion to fight in the war, so he stood by the Islam, and those great young men behind him actually said that he was really convinced on not joining the military because it's what he basically stood for. And then down at the bottom, we got Tyus, the track star, who basically changed the game for everyone, all the females and African Americans in general. They Tennessee State, where they worked hard and broke like records, and barriers to as well, to where things were still segregated within these days, to where even others like ate out of cans and stuff like that too as well, just because the coach was like preparing them to get ready so they didn't have to deal with these certain things in segregation where things were segregated and not segregated. But here we have OJ, which I watched the documentary, but I don't really remember too much more of it until I had to watch over it again. And just the things OJ the football star, and OJ just a person out of football, whatever Hollywood. He was just someone that thought he was above the standards because he basically didn't protest or just stand up for a black community because he just thought he was just above everyone and he just wanted to do whatever could. Even though he was a great star, he just went to USC and was known for the run. And after that, he just thought nobody could ever just bring him down or whatever that may be. He just thought he could do whatever he wanted. And I learned really a lot about him, just the way he carried himself. I mean, he was just pretty much well spoken during his college days and stuff like that too as well. But he just had that demeanor about himself to where he just thought he could do what he wanted, and just that pretty much didn't sit right with me because he didn't want to allow his black brothers and sisters to excel just because he was in all these commercials. He could allow more people of color like him to excel too as well if he just would have just participated too as well. And the Fab Five right here, just basically one of the things that stood out to me as well was basically the conveyor belt to where these five could have went anywhere they wanted to, HBCUs, but they decided to go to Michigan to put the Big Ten and all these other conferences, Big 12s and stuff like that. Instead of going to HBCUs, they went elsewhere and made these schools and these conferences even more bigger. And they thought they was controlling the conveyor belt, but there really wasn't. At the end, they really got them. And then verses in the book of the chapter where he's telling his son that he couldn't go to specific schools, so he made because the coaches and stuff like that in the conveyor belt, they try to brainwash you, manipulate you, and go around you using the parents. They go straight to you instead of them come straight to the parents. So he pretty wasn't having that. So he eventually told him that he can go to Miami to play for somebody who valued him and wanted him and had someone that of his color there too as well. And here we got the Dream On in 1996 Olympics team, which they had to go through a lot of stuff just to get to where we are today with the WNBA established in 1996. And these players, Don Stanley, Lisa Leslie, just to name a few from on here, they all worked hard and they went through a lot of stuff, traveling in hotels, sharing rooms, which the man really wasn't sharing room as well. They getting paid $50,000 a year when they were getting paid 300,000 plus elsewhere. But they knew they had to sacrifice a bunch of stuff just for like the women so they could have the lead that they have, and they can obviously travel in first class instead of coaching now. He just did a lot of good things that they sacrificed there so that the league is still withstanding today. And then over here we have track stars as Flojo and her sister-in-law. They were one of the best that ever do it. She brought the stylish to the track meet, as you can see Richardson today. She has flashy nails and hair too as well, just like this young woman did back in the day. And her sister, she was a two-time she played college sports too as well. So she actually played basketball to where she was thought about quitting because of how everything was going. The coach wasn't really taking too much time into it. Her husband finally took the time and just basically really mentored her and took her under her wing and just did everything that she could for her just so that she can stay the course. And one thing else I didn't really like how like the HBCUs were basically it wasn't allowed them to take like intellectual courses to where they just were like these basically agricultural classes, mechanical and industrials that the government just had a say in what HBCUs could basically actually study instead of making it like their PWIs where they can study pretty much everything, no Mickey Mouse courses and stuff like that, to where they did vice versa to the black HBCUs to where they could always the white man could always be on top of us basically. So I did not like how the government controlled the institutional college institutional studies of the HBCUs. Here, mental health is one thing that takes place too, as well as you see these two young ladies, these athletes, which every athlete is probably dealing with mental health too, as well. So they want to be treated as regular people too, as well. So when they're not feeling good, they don't need to play in just to take their health out over there too, as well. So people just got to understand that mental health is something serious and that it's okay to get help and seek out help as they did. They took time away from the sport and it's obviously support the Black Lives Matter movement, Black Power movements, and all that stuff. They just brought notoriety and recognition to these people that were beaten and wrongly convicted or even dead with police brutality. So yeah, mental health is something that needs to be taken serious. And I just want to thank you for allowing me to take the time to introduce me into some great books and great lecture too as well. The class was overall great. I plan to read majority of the rest of the books that we haven't read yet in this course. But once again, I want to say thank you for taking the time out and sharing this valuable information with me. Thanks.